Welcome back to Real Gun Adventures. So it's a wet, horrible day. I'm in the workshop, so I thought I'd make a quick how-to video for scope cams. Now I did say I'll do this, and I have made quite a few scope cams, different types, different styles. This is pretty much the simplest, the cheapest, and the most effective. Now, like everybody, I suspect, I've bought things like this in the past, and they're about between £5 and £10, and they don't work. The camera tends to droop, they tend to move around. They just don't perform as they should, because they're not designed for rifle scopes. They're for telescopes, binoculars, spotting scopes. They're not really for video either, they're for still photography. That aside, with some ingenuity and a few parts, you can make them quite good, but you might as well just make one from scratch that's built for the job. It'd be far superior. So what you'll need is one of these. In the UK we call this a Fernco adapter. Fernco is a brand name, company that makes them. It's a universal waste pipe coupling for low pressure water. So it's something you can buy in a plumber's merchants, a builder's merchants, or a DIY store. Now if you go to a plumber's merchants or a builder's merchants, you'll probably pay £5 or £6 for one. Go to a DIY superstore, might be a tenner or more, or even online you'll probably pay through the nose. But that's what it is, that's what they cost. That's a 32mm or 1.25" in old money. You'll also need one of these. Now this is a stop end or access plug, again for waste pipe. They're usually white or grey. I use black, as I've mentioned before. One of those should cost about 50p. You'll probably pay a couple of quid for it in a DIY type superstore. This is actually not quite what I want. If you look at that, it's got a flange, and that flange is on the wrong end. It should be over here for my purposes. So I'm going to have to file that off, get rid of it. And once that's gone, that will fit quite snugly into one end of this, and the other end will fit quite snugly onto the rifle scope. So that's 1.5", that's 1.25". That's how you get that nice snug fit. Don't buy 1.25" plugs for 1.25" Ferncos, because they'll be too loose, and you'll have to make a lot of use of that Jubilee clip on the top. Hose clip is what it really is. Jubilee again is a brand name. All these copyright infringements in one video. So those are the two components you'll need to go and buy from a plumber's merchants or builder's merchants. You'll need one of these, which is a rubbery type clip-on phone case for the phone that you're going to use. Now I'm going to use this phone for the demonstration one that I'm going to build. I'll be honest, I don't use my actual phone for filming. Things go wrong, things get dropped. Back in the days of using these, things fall off. So rather than risk a phone that I rely on, I've just got a cheap basic phone. I've got a few of these actually. These are about sort of 35 quid a pop. Good battery life, decent camera, rubbish phone. But all I'm interested in is the camera function. And for scope cam filming, they are perfect, they're ideal. So what we're going to do is I'm going to file that lip, that flange off of there, because I don't need it. That'll take me about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to modify this slightly, only slightly. Now, you might find that the fitting that you buy looks slightly different. This isn't it is a Fernco, but this isn't a coupling. This is cut from something else. I've got a pile of non-return valves that I use for something else, and this was part of one of them, and I've got them, so I'll just cut them up and use them. If you cut these things, it's a bit of a nightmare. They're rubber. You've got to cut them straight, and they tend to move around. And then if you want to sand it, you've got to go through a whole process of sanding it down to a smooth finish. I've done that because I didn't have to buy it. I wouldn't have done if I paid for it. I'd go and buy one the right size. Now, these three components here will make up the adapter. All you need to do from a work point of view is there's a mark in there which you won't be able to see, because I can barely see it. It's the center. So we're going to drill a hole in there. That is going to affix to the cheap phone case. This phone case is a couple of quid. As I say, this should be 50p, it might be a couple of quid. That will sit over there, and we're actually going to put a couple of self tappers in with countersunk heads to keep that good and tight, so that isn't going to move. Now that is also a really tight fit on this, so that isn't going to move. and this will be a tight fit on the rifle itself, so that's not going to move. Plus we've got these hose clips that we can give a nip, because being rubber, that will relax over time and get slightly loose, so it allows you to take up that little bit of differential and keep it nice and tight. This isn't going to move, it's not going to slip. If we get that hole in the center and line up the case properly, you'll get the perfect view through the scope and your filming will be spot on, unlike some of these adapters which take a long time to set up and they move slightly. Now back to phones and cameras quickly. It's got a single camera. It's much easier to set this up with a basic single lens camera. The camera that I tend to use, or the phone that fits my scope cam that I tend to use when I'm filming, it's got 3 lenses and something else, so there's 4 in the back. Great quality images, really good, but it was an absolute nightmare to get that lined up to do the filming correctly. So much so that I don't take it out of the scope cam adapter, it stays there. But it's not my everyday phone, it's just a phone that I bought for the camera. And as I say, these are cheap phones, but the cameras in these are plenty good enough. Now, the advantage to going down this route is it's cheap, it's easy. Also, these usually have quite a good zoom. You'll probably get a 10 times digital zoom on this, so it actually increases your scope's power. But obviously that's not what it's for, it's there to do some filming. So I'm going to go and file this off, I'm going to come back, I'm going to set the bench up, put all the bits down, I'll actually make it real time in the video, and we'll put it on the rifle and we'll test it. So I'll be right back. So let's build a scope cam. Now I've modified this only in that I've taken off this stiffening ring, which you may or may not have on yours, don't need that, and I've just taken these out of the way for now. So other than that, that's pretty much as it was. While I was away, I've drilled a pilot hole in there, so I just flipped it over so I could see the little mark in the centre and popped a 3 or 4 mil drill bit through there just as a guide. I'm going to drill the actual hole, just pick that back up, the actual hole with one of these stepped drills and that bit of tape just to tell me when to stop, because I do need to be told when to stop. So the first thing to do is to pop that hole in there. Once you've got that, which we have, that should be pretty well centered. We'll just compare that to the camera case quickly, because we're going to be lining up there. That's exactly what we want and exactly where we want it. So let's just get rid of that swarf, because that's not helping. Now we want to fix our phone case on there so as it lines up as well as we can. To do that, I've seen people glue these. There's double-sided tape you can use. I'm not going to trust any of that. I'm only interested in screwing the thing on with some countersunk self-tappers, and they're countersunk so they don't interfere with the actual back of the phone. So here be the screws. They're just little Phillips countersunk head screws, which you can pick up anywhere. You've probably got some. Most people do. I'm going to again drill pilot holes, which I think is a 3 mil drill bit. Now the idea behind this is it saves us doing any damage to this slightly rubberized phone case. So I'll just line that up and both those couple of holes in. There's not really a great deal of skill to this. Okay, got the first one, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to screw that one in. See the hole there? To hold it in position while I drill the second one. And none of this should take very long. I would normally be a bit quicker, but because I'm filming it, I'm doing it a bit slower, and of course I'm watching the camera monitor rather than what I'm doing. Okay, just put that in there. Actually, let's put that in the right hole because I think that's going to save a lot of time. Now all of this plastic and this rubber is all fairly soft, so the screw head will disappear down quite easily, providing your hole's not too big. Won't tighten that up completely just yet, because what I want to do is pop in that other screw. So exactly the same again. Roughly the same distance. And you might need to apply a bit of pressure to get the drill started and get it through that slightly rubbery case, but not too much. And you've probably got a more stable surface to work on my temporary bench that I set up for filming. Now in essence, that's it. There really isn't much more to this than just that. So if I pop that in there, essentially I've got the scope cam adapter, and all I need to do now is fit the phone and pop it on the rifle. So looking through there, that will line up with the center of your scope, and you've got a little bit of adjustment here to get your eye relief there or thereabouts and make that film correctly. So let's grab that camera quickly, or phone. That's going to pop in there, and that is going to go onto my rifle scope. So that's the next stage. I'm going to pop that on the scope, and then we're going to have a quick try. Okay, be right back. Oh, also, while I'm talking about this, you could, if you wanted to, pop a self-tapping screw in the side there to retain this access plug. You don't need to, because you've got these. You can pop those back on and give it a nip if you need to, but that is really tight. The only thing that's making that not as tight as it could be, perhaps, is the fact that those self-tapping screws are a tad on the short side. They're the ones that I had come to hand, but I'm going to stick with those. We'll pop this on the rifle and we'll go from there. Be right back. Okie dokie, there it is on the scope. Obviously there's some marks and things on this case because it wasn't the new one, just one I had kicking around, but that's how it fits. So we're tight here, we're tight there. This is pretty secure because of the fact it's screwed on. Just works like any other scope cam, except it costs pennies to make, and you can change the phone by changing the case. So if you do decide to change your phone, just get yourself a cheap case, undo those screws, drill through the old one into the new one, screw the case on. So it's quite a flexible system. Now let's actually have a look at how it works. So there you go, cheap DIY scope cam. Please like and subscribe. A big thanks to all those who have, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.